Good morning. I've got data video for the week beginning the 31st of July. And this is the COT data positioning so we can see the banks and institutions as the net non-coms. So what we can see is on the dollar, we went sideways for about 6 months, 5, 6 months, and it's dipped down by a fair bit. We went from 11,000 to 6,000. So in the scheme of things, we're still positive, but we're going towards zero. So if we do breach zero, that'd be really, really interesting because we haven't seen that happen uh, for a long time, as you can see. The euro, we went a little bit sideways, very much, very strong compared to the USD, and there's just a slight decline, 178,000 to 177. So we're talking about a 5,000 drop here, but a 1,000 drop there. So it's interesting about the dollar. And before you get too carried away about selling the dollar, remember this is delayed, and we had a hell of a lot of data last week from central banks, and the ECB were less hawkish, and so that's probably we're going to see probably more of a decline on the euro, and perhaps we won't breach the zero on the USD. Okay, so just bear in mind we had a lot of central bank stuff last week, and so this is possibly we're going to see like a rebalancing this week, and we should see a clearer picture by next Friday. And I don't think we're going to beat zero in the USD, but we'll see. Yen, so that's fine. Dollar's coming down, the yen is ticking up. So when these two cross, we'll get the UJ sell, but we've still got a bit of time, bit of distance before they cross, and we have surged quite a bit, 117 to 77. So it's quite a big increase there of contracts, bullish contracts. We need that to be above the zero before we look to be buying yen, ideally. So it's probably what's going to happen. It's going to teeter here with this resistance, and we won't breach the zero. Likewise, I don't think the dollar is going to breach the zero, and that we won't get the cross. It looks like we might, but I don't think we will. But we'll have to wait and see. What we're looking at, let's get euro off, put Aussie on. Yeah, just a bit choppy, isn't it, Aussie? 50,000, 45,000. Yes, it's just a decrease there. We're a little bit range bound, aren't we? Between that high and that low, that low. So we're between those values basically. So a little bit range bound on Aussie. And remember that this is a very risk on currency. So if this does pump, that could indicate that we're going to be risk on. So Aussie off, pound on. It was pumping, and it's eased a little bit, 63 to 58. We'd really surged above the zero, and that's the 50 basis point hike from the BOE. That was the shock. There was a bit of anticipation, uncertainty around how much they were going to hike, and they went they went sort of a bit aggressive on their hiking path, and they could have done 25, but they did 50, and that's that big pump because of that. And there's the USD down, there's the pound up, so that was therefore the GU buy back then last month. Okay, and that's actually done quite well since, hadn't it? So pound off, CAD on. Oh, look, that's interesting. Wow, okay. So it looks like we're going to get a dollar CAD sell. So have a look at your technical charts, look at the sentiment, look at the bubbles potentially for UC dollar CAD. And so this would be a swing trade idea for a long. For a short, sorry, the dollar CAD would be a swing trade for a short. Assuming that we're going to get a crossover next week, I guess we will. I don't know about that dollar. We'll have to wait and see. Perhaps the CAD will pump, and it might be the dollar will pump as well. So then, therefore, we wouldn't have the trade. We want the crossover. We don't want them to run in both in parallel. And so we'll have to wait and see for Friday. So that's off note. So that's going to be probably a good trade to take potentially. CAD off, gold on, and we went from 193 to 173, so 20,000. But we are very much strongly positive. There's the zero line there, so if it falls, we're still going to be well supported, aren't we? Down there. Gold off, and then I think Kiwi is going to be range bound. It has been, so it's nothing to say there. It's just chopping sideways like the Swiss franc. So we might get the NU trade, but look what happened here. We could have got the crossover. We never did, and the Kiwi, the New Zealand dollar, just sold off. Likewise, it might happen again. It might just touch it and then sell off. And I think maybe the dollar CAD might do something similar, but we'll have to wait and see for the dollar CAD. So just consolidating at the moment. Kiwi off, and then lastly Swiss franc, not that one, this one, and we're just sideways. So that's that. So nothing to be said really. Just probably best to wait for Friday. But if you're looking to take that dollar CAD trade, and I don't think the dollar is going to breach that zero. I think it's going to probably just teeter, and then it'll just resume, and it might just go back in that range again. We can see how we'd gone sideways for what good while, and then they've sold off the last week, and we never did. Well, we breached these supports, but now we've got those supports now, so it looks quite scary in the yen, and now we've got those supports. So fairly okay, the yen, but we would want it above the zero, ideally, before looking for longs. And that's it. So remember to trade safely, and I'll be back tomorrow for the bulletin and all the analysis in Discord.